The season starts with a black lady whose name is Bonnie. She buys a few things from a shop and then sits in her car. She takes out a book from the dashboard. Inside it, there is a piece of newspaper with Alyssa's picture, published as a suspect in Professor Clive's murder case. Now, the focus shifts to Bonnie's past. She is a very sensitive girl. She never gets love at home. Her mom always pushes her to study and tries to improve her grades, but she has no interest in studying. Her parents don't have a good relationship, and one day, her dad leaves them. After that, she and her mom moved somewhere far away. Her mom starts pressuring her even more, wanting her to get into a university as soon as possible. But Bonnie feels different from everyone. She's seen as weird in school, and when kids make fun of her, she gets angry and cuts a classmate's hair. Because of this, she gets suspended. When she gets home, she lies to her mom, saying she got A+ in all subjects. That's not true at all, but her mom believes her and feels happy. Bonnie starts working as a librarian at the same college where Professor Clive used to teach, the same man James had killed in self-defense. She decides to attend his class, but at first, he refuses to let her join. Frustrated, she scribbles over his posters and books. Later, the professor picks up the ruined materials and places them on her table. When he asks if she did it, she admits it without hesitation. Instead of being angry, he finds her boldness interesting and finally allows her to attend his class, but on one condition. She must visit his house once a week for drinks. Bonnie agrees. Bonnie starts visiting him and they spend a good time together. Slowly, they get closer to each other. Meanwhile, Clive is trapping her just like he did with other girls, trying to make her his next victim. One night, Bonnie goes to Clive's house and sees him drinking and talking to another girl. She waits for the girl to leave. As soon as she's gone, she questions Clive about her. He tells her that the girl was threatening him. She was a failing student who had asked for his help to pass. In reality, he is manipulating her just like the others, but Bonnie doesn't realize this. The next day, filled with rage, she runs over the girl with her car, leaving her lying on the road. Then, she calls the ambulance using the girl's phone and also surrenders herself. Eventually, Bonnie gets arrested. While in jail, she receives a book from Clive. Inside, he writes that he loves her, but in truth, he was only trying to manipulate her. Bonnie keeps sending him letters from jail, but Clive never bothers to reply. The letters pile up in the letterbox, left unread. Time passes, and one day, when one of her letters gets returned, the police inform her that Clive has died. The news hits her hard, leaving her shaken and overwhelmed with emotions. After serving her sentence and finally getting out of jail, she doesn't waste any time. Instead of trying to restart her life or move on, she becomes fixated on one thing: finding James and Alyssa. Without hesitation, she sets out on a mission to track them down, determined to face them. Alyssa now lives with her mom at her Aunt Lee's house because her stepfather has left them. Ever since James disappeared from her life, she feels completely numb. Nothing excites her, and nothing upsets her. Everything just feels empty. To help out a little, she starts working as a waitress at her aunt's small cafe. It's not something she enjoys, but it gives her a routine, something to do, even if it doesn't really make her feel anything. One day, while working at the cafe, Alyssa meets a guy named Todd. At first, they exchange a few casual conversations, nothing too deep. But over time, they grow closer. He becomes a distraction from the emptiness she feels, someone to pass the time with. They start spending more time together, and eventually, their relationship takes a step further. For the first time, Alyssa shares an intimate moment with him. After this, she asks Todd if he would marry her. Surprised but willing, he agrees. Without overthinking, they both start preparing for the wedding, moving forward as if this is the natural next step. One day, Alyssa finds an envelope in the letterbox. When she opens it, she is shocked to see a bullet inside, with her name written on it. A strange feeling creeps over her, but she tries to push it aside and continue with her day. However, fear lingers in the back of her mind. As she goes about her routine, she becomes more alert, constantly looking over her shoulder. At the cafe, she notices a car parked outside. It's been there for a while, unmoving. The sight of it unsettles her. Throughout the day, she keeps glancing at it, growing more anxious. By evening, she can't take it anymore. Determined to find out the truth, she gathers her courage and runs toward the car. Heart pounding, she yanks the door open, only to freeze in shock. Sitting inside is James. A flashback reveals what happened to James after being shot. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition and remained under strict surveillance. His recovery was long and painful, requiring multiple surgeries before he could finally walk again. During this time, he received a letter from the authorities officially declaring his release as it was self-defense, and Professor Clive's recordings of other victims helped his case a lot. Amidst his treatment, Alyssa's mother visited him. She was firm in her request. She wanted him to stay away from Alyssa for good. She insisted that he write a breakup letter as proof, making it clear that their relationship was over. James resisted at first, struggling with the weight of her demand, but in the end, he gave in. and wrote the letter. It was one of the hardest things he had ever done. Even as he put the words on paper, guilt and regret filled him. Deep down, he never wanted to hurt Alyssa, but he convinced himself that staying away was for the best. From that moment, he decided he would never see her again. This realization left James heartbroken, but he had no choice except to move forward. Over time, he recovered completely and finally started walking on his own again. His relationship with his father also began to improve. They spent more time together, gradually mending the distance that had once existed between them. One day, James and his father went to a bowling club for a casual game. They were enjoying their time when, suddenly, his father clutched his chest in pain. Before James could react, he collapsed to the ground. Panic set in as James tried to help, but it was too late. His father had suffered a fatal heart attack and passed away on the spot. James, after attending his father's final rites, returned home but found it unbearable to step inside. The emptiness of the house weighed heavily on him, so he made the impulsive decision to live in his car instead. Days passed, and while trying to adjust to his new reality, he received an unexpected mail. Inside was a bullet with his name written on it, which sent a chill down his spine. Fear crept in, and he couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. Wanting to ensure Alyssa's safety, he decided to check on her. He drove to her house, only to find out that she had moved in with her aunt. Without a second thought, he made his way there. The moment he saw her again after all this time, a wave of happiness washed over him. But before he could even step forward, he witnessed Alyssa embracing Todd. In that instant, he realized they were in a relationship. Soon after, he learned that they were getting married. A sharp pain hit him, but he swallowed his emotions, forcing himself to remain silent. Despite his heartache, he couldn't stay away. He found himself watching Alyssa from afar, longing to talk to her. One day, while parked across the street, waiting to catch a glimpse of her, she finally noticed him. Suspicion flickered in her eyes as she stared at the car, sensing something familiar. When she finally confronted him, James panicked. In his attempt to back away, his car accidentally hit something. Without wasting another second, Alyssa rushed forward, yanked open the car door, and finally saw his face. Shock filled her eyes as she realized who had been watching her all along. Alyssa invites James inside, finally facing him after all this time. She asks how he has been, and he hesitantly opens up, telling her about the numerous surgeries he went through, and how, after a long struggle, he is finally able to walk again. There's an unspoken tension between them, a mix of emotions neither of them knows how to express. Before they can talk any further, Lee, Alyssa's aunt, arrives. Noticing James, she raises an eyebrow, curious about his sudden appearance. James, feeling slightly awkward, mentions his broken-down car. Lee, in her usual straightforward manner, asks about the call for a mechanic and casually informs him that one will only be available the next day. Realizing James has nowhere to go for the night, she offers him a place to stay. Since he has nothing with him and no immediate plans, she suggests he sleep in the small cabin behind the cafe where Alyssa works. Though hesitant at first, James has no choice but to accept. As he settles into the unfamiliar space, he can't help but wonder what his return truly means for Alyssa and whether things will ever go back to the way they were. The next day, Alyssa and Todd stand before their guests, exchanging vows in their wedding ceremony. Everything seems perfect on the surface, but inside, Alyssa feels something she can't quite ignore. Meanwhile, James gets his car fixed by the mechanic and quietly leaves, driving away without looking back. But before he can get too far, he spots something shocking. Alyssa, standing in the middle of the road, still in her wedding dress. She looks out of place, yet determined. Without hesitation, she gets into James's car, leaving him completely stunned. As he gathers his thoughts, he asks if she went through with the wedding. She nods, confirming that she did marry Todd, but then admits that she ran away. She needed time and space, but she couldn't find it at that moment. James remains silent, processing her words. Now with Alyssa beside him once again, he wonders where this road will take them. After that, they stop at a roadside diner because Alyssa feels hungry. Inside, a waitress greets them with a warm smile and congratulates them, assuming they are newlyweds. Their formal outfits make it look like they just got married. Alyssa immediately corrects her, but James, secretly pleased by the assumption, remains silent, enjoying the moment. While James finds comfort in Alyssa's presence, she starts second-guessing her decision to run away. As she sits there, her mind races, making her wonder if she has made a huge mistake. Sensing her unease, James suggests they do something spontaneous like they used to. He reminds her how much she used to love breaking the rules and taking risks, hoping to bring back that spark in her. But Alyssa isn't the same anymore. She refuses and tells him that if they do something reckless, they should at least pay for it with their own money, referring to her decision to settle her bill instead of running off. Frustrated, she storms out of the diner. James quickly pays and follows her outside, where Alyssa finally lets out what she has been holding in. She tells him she regrets coming back, that she should have never met him again, and that he should leave. James, hurt by her words, asks why she returned in the first place. Was it because she missed him, or was it just because he was stalking her? Alyssa insists she came back because of him, but now she wants him to leave. Before they can argue further, James's car gets towed for illegal parking. Realizing they have no choice, they both run after the tow truck, their conversation left unresolved. James tells Alyssa that his father's last remains are inside the car, since his father passed away due to a heart attack, and it is necessary for him to get it back. Hearing this, Alyssa softens a little. They both head to the tow yard and talk to the owner, hoping to retrieve the car. However, the man demands a hefty amount in return. James, unable to pay, offers to leave the car behind but requests to take his father's remains. The owner refuses, saying everything inside the car is secure and will only be returned if James pays. Frustrated and helpless, James doesn't know what to do. Alyssa quickly pulls him away, an idea forming in her mind. She tells him they will wait until the yard closes. Once the place is empty, they'll sneak in, find his car, and take it back. Holding up a chain cutter she grabbed earlier, she smirks, making it clear she is serious about the plan. James, though hesitant, knows he has no other choice. James and Alyssa talk about his father's death, and as the conversation goes on, she starts feeling sleepy. Slowly, she dozes off. James watches her, lost in thoughts of their past moments together. Memories flood his mind, the way she made him feel. Unable to hold back, he softly whispers, "I love you." But Alyssa suddenly stirs and wakes up. She looks at him, confused, and asks what he just said. James quickly covers it up, saying it's time. They need to go as the yard owner has closed up. Without pressing further, she gets up and they prepare for their plan. Breaking into the yard, they move quickly, cutting through the barriers. James finds his car and immediately gets in. As the alarm blares, they crash through the main gate, speeding away. Adrenaline rushes through them, and despite everything, they can't help but laugh. James feels alive again, and for a brief moment, it's as if they are back to how things used to be. Wanting to hold on to this feeling, he tries to bring up their old memories, hoping to remind Alyssa of what they once had. But then, Alyssa notices a woman standing alone on the road near the woods, signaling for a lift. She seems stranded, and Alyssa, feeling uneasy about leaving her there, tells James they should stop. She worries that if they don't, some crazy person might pick her up instead. James hesitates but eventually pulls over. As the woman approaches, she introduces herself as Bonnie. There's something unsettling about her, but Alyssa, unaware of the danger, invites her to get in. Bonnie had been stalking them for a long time. She had even blackmailed them without them realizing. The moment they escaped from the tow yard, she rushed ahead and positioned herself on the road, knowing they would stop. Before getting in, she discreetly punctures one of the car's tires with a sharp knife hidden in her bag. Then, acting innocent, she slides into the back seat. James and Alyssa remain unaware of what she has just done. Bonnie remains completely silent throughout the ride, making James feel uneasy. Her presence is heavy, and her quietness feels deliberate. Alyssa, on the other hand, is concerned. If Bonnie was truly alone in the middle of the woods, something terrible must have happened to her. But in Bonnie's mind, only one thing matters. She believes these two intentionally killed Professor Clive. Just then, they realize the car has broken down. The tire is completely flat. James checks and realizes the spare tire was already used, leaving them stranded. Alyssa steps away to relieve herself while Bonnie takes the chance to manipulate the situation. She tells James she's thirsty and asks him to check if there's water in the car. As James searches, she silently prepares to attack. Just as she's about to make her move, Alyssa returns, forcing Bonnie to stop. Alyssa notices smoke rising in the distance. It could be a restaurant or some kind of shelter. Without another choice, the three of them begin dragging the car in that direction. At the shelter, the motel owner greets them warmly. The place looks old but decent enough for a night's stay. James heads straight to the toilet while Alyssa, overwhelmed by everything, decides to book 2 rooms, one for herself and James and the other for Bonnie. However, they don't have enough money. Bonnie steps in, offering to pay. She insists it's her way of thanking them for giving her a ride. Alyssa hesitates, but eventually agrees. Bonnie's gesture seems friendly, but there's something unsettling about it. As they enter the room, Alyssa notices there's only a single bed. James feels a little happy inside, but Alyssa seems confused and unsure of what to do. The situation feels awkward, and she hesitates for a moment. Trying to break the silence, James comments on how nice the motel is. His eyes wander to the wall beside the door, where sharp and pointed stag horns are mounted as key holders. In her room, Bonnie tries to gather confidence, gripping the gun tightly, planning how she will confront them and take revenge for her lover. But before she can act, Alyssa and James knock on her door. They suggest that they should all relax and have a drink together. As they sit and drink, Gus, the motel owner, appears. He seems desperate and assumes Bonnie is alone since James and Alyssa look like a married couple. He makes a move on her, but Alyssa quickly steps in and shoos him away. Meanwhile, James and Alyssa start noticing Bonnie's behavior. She keeps drinking heavily, losing herself in the moment. To them, she suddenly seems harmless, maybe even a little sweet, but they have no idea what's really going on in her mind. Alyssa sits there, lost in thought, memories of her wedding rushing back. She regrets how she left everything behind. Her mother, the guests, just for this. She had barely any money and made a reckless decision. The weight of it all unsettles her, so she gets up and leaves. Meanwhile, Bonnie keeps drinking excessively, drowning in her own emotions. James watches for a while but then decides to leave. When he returns to the room, Alyssa is already there. She stands there feeling conflicted, realizing how she has confused James with her actions. Later, they sit together, drinking again. The tension between them lingers. Then, Alyssa suddenly expresses a desire to kiss. They inch closer, and without another word, they give in to the moment, sharing a deep kiss. On the other side, Gus once again makes a move on Bonnie, offering her a drink. This time, he deliberately spikes it with a sedative. Bonnie, unaware, takes a sip. Gus, being extremely lonely and desperate, watches her closely, waiting for the drug to take effect. However, Bonnie senses something off. She notices the way Gus is looking at her, his intentions clear. Without a word, she decides to leave before anything happens. She stands up and walks away, leaving him behind, frustrated and alone. Bonnie is still in her room when Gus barges in without knocking, pretending to be there for room service. He casually sits on the bed and starts unzipping his pants, his desperation obvious. Bonnie, disgusted and enraged, immediately pulls out the gun she had with her, aiming it at him. Gus panics, raising his hand, stammering that he'll leave, but before he can move, the sedative starts taking effect, making Bonnie feel lightheaded. Her grip on the gun loosens, and as she places it on the side table, it slips and falls to the floor. The impact sets off a shot that hits Gus straight in the head, passing through. The loud gunshot startles James and Alyssa in the other room. Just as they were getting closer, lost in the moment, they froze. Alyssa instantly pulls away, her expression changing. Guilt washes over her, and she reminds James that they shouldn't be doing this. She hesitates before asking him if he could sleep in the bathroom instead. James, though disappointed, agrees without argument. As Bonnie stumbles backward from the gunshot, she crashes against the wall where the mounted stag horns are. One of the sharp antlers pierces her, causing a deep wound. Dizzy from the sedative and pain, she collapses onto Gus's lifeless body and loses consciousness. Meanwhile, James lies awake in the bathroom, hoping that things between him and Alyssa will eventually work out. On the other hand, Alyssa, sitting on the bed, is lost in thought, regretting everything that just happened. The next morning, Bonnie wakes up and finds herself lying on top of Gus's lifeless body. Shocked, she tries to recall the events of the previous night. Meanwhile, Alyssa is lost in thought, reflecting on what happened, while James seems pleased, replaying the night in his mind. Neither of them has slept much. When James steps out of the room, he notices Alyssa is missing and follows her. Alyssa, on the other hand, heads to the reception to get something to eat but finds no one there. Suspicious, they decide to check Bonnie's room. Inside, Bonnie hurriedly stuffs Gus's body into the wardrobe. Just then, James asks Bonnie for some money to fix the car. She agrees and goes inside to get it. As she leaves, James jokingly tells Alyssa that Bonnie might not be alone. They laugh, assuming she had a good time with Gus last night. Unaware of the truth, they take the money and leave. James gets the car repaired while Alyssa remains unsettled, sensing that something about this place isn't right. The three of them get back into the car and continue their journey. While driving, James asks Bonnie where she wants to be dropped off. She mentions that her sister's house is nearby. He agrees and drives in that direction. Meanwhile, Bonnie secretly takes Alyssa's wedding scarf and hides it in her bag. Suddenly, she starts feeling unwell. The thoughts of the previous night overwhelm her, and she rushes out of the car to vomit. James, on the other hand, keeps bringing up the events of the night, trying to talk to Alyssa about it, but she shuts him down every time, quickly changing the topic, making it clear she doesn't want to discuss it. Bonnie suddenly says she urgently needs to visit a chemist, so they take her there. Once inside, she starts buying a lot of painkillers and other medical supplies. The chemist notices the blood on her and realizes something bad must have happened to her. He tells Bonnie that he is a feminist and wants to help her, asking if she needs to talk about anything, but she refuses to say anything. Instead, she asks where the toilet is and goes inside. Alone in the washroom, she starts bandaging her wound. While doing so, she places the gun there and continues tending to her injury, focusing on cleaning up the mess. Meanwhile, Alyssa tells James to check why Bonnie hasn't returned yet. When James goes inside, the chemist, assuming James is responsible for Bonnie's condition, subtly accuses him. He hints that Bonnie might have been harmed by someone and refuses to say anything else. James, confused and frustrated, insists that Bonnie is here, but the chemist denies it. James walks back outside and tells Alyssa that the chemist claims Bonnie was never there and has disappeared. Just then, Bonnie suddenly appears behind them, acting normal. She casually says she's starving, brushing off any concerns. With no other option, they decide to go to a nearby restaurant. Once inside, they order food and start eating as if nothing happened. James starts talking about the rotating table at the restaurant, trying to keep the mood light. Then he casually asks Bonnie about her boyfriend. At first, she avoids the question, but eventually she reveals that he was murdered. The word murder immediately triggers Alyssa's memories of Professor Clive and everything that happened to him. Her expression darkens, and frustration builds up inside her. Without explaining much, she abruptly says they should get the food packed instead and eat on the way. She seems restless, eager to leave. Not wanting to argue, they quickly get the food to go and leave the restaurant. Suddenly, Bonnie remembers that she left the gun in the pharmacy's toilet. Panic rushes through her, and without wasting a second, she hurries back. As she reaches the restroom, her heart sinks. There's no gun. Desperate, she storms up to the pharmacist and directly asks if he took it. He remains calm, trying to reason with her. He says he understands that something terrible happened to her, but violence isn't the solution. He assures her that he hasn't called the police and genuinely wants to help. But Bonnie isn't interested in his sympathy. Her eyes darken as she pulls out a knife from her pocket, pointing it at him. Her voice is cold and firm. She wants her gun back. Fear spreads across the pharmacist's face. His hands shake as he quickly retrieves the gun and hands it over. The sheer terror of the moment gets to him, and he loses control. His pants get wet. Bonnie snatches the gun, tucks it away, and without another word, rushes out. Meanwhile, James finally gathers the courage to ask Alyssa why she's been acting so cold toward him, especially after they kissed. Her response is sharp. Maybe it's because James was the one who betrayed her, the one who abandoned her with just a letter. James, taken aback, finally confesses the truth. That letter wasn't his idea. His mother forced him to write it. Alyssa processes this in silence, the revelation hitting her hard, but she doesn't let it show. Without a word, she gets into the car, her emotions hidden beneath a blank expression. James, struggling with guilt, breaks the silence. He says he wants to apologize. Alyssa, still distant, scoffs at the idea, as if a simple sorry could fix everything. James sighs, knowing she's right. He admits that things won't magically become okay. And it's not just about her. He's been through hell too. He was involved in everything, and he barely made it out alive. Alyssa coldly tells him that whatever they had is gone. There's nothing left between them. Without saying anything more, he takes Bonnie's food and leaves it on the road. Then, without looking back, he drives off to drop Alyssa home. When Bonnie steps outside and sees they abandoned her like that, a wave of anger and shock rushes through her. James drops Alyssa near her home. When she steps inside, guilt weighs heavy on her. She apologizes to her mom and aunt for everything she did and promises to pay back all the wedding expenses. She feels ashamed for how things turned out. Her aunt, however, keeps it simple. She just tells her to go change and not to trouble her mother too much. Meanwhile, Bonnie takes a taxi back to the forest where she had parked her car. She swallows some painkillers to numb her wounds. Then, without wasting any time, she starts heading toward Alyssa's house. On the other side, Aunt Lee approaches James and tells him that he can't just park there forever. He needs to move on, but he feels lost, admitting that he has nowhere else to go. She then brings up his father's ashes, pointing out that he can't carry them around forever. This makes him pause. He confesses that he doesn't know where to scatter them. Lee suggests a place, where his father and mother first met. Something clicks in his mind. For the first time in a while, he feels like he has a purpose again. With a decision finally made, he leaves everything behind and sets off once more. On the other side, Alyssa meets her husband, Todd, who is sitting on a chair in the woods. She apologizes, but he is already upset. Trying to calm things down, Todd tells her that he is building a house for them, a place where they can start fresh. But Alyssa suddenly says she wants a divorce. She admits she isn't mentally prepared for marriage. Todd's frustration grows. He can't understand why she's saying this now. After all, she was the one who agreed to the wedding. Alyssa, overwhelmed, apologizes again, saying everything feels too confusing and she doesn't know what to do. As James is finally moving on and driving back, he suddenly spots Bonnie speeding toward Alyssa's house. A thought strikes him. Why would she ask for a lift earlier if she already had a car? And she never went to her sister's place, so why is she heading toward Alyssa now? Concern creeps in, and James can't shake off the feeling that something is wrong. Without wasting time, he turns his car around and starts following Bonnie. Meanwhile, Bonnie reaches Alyssa's house and asks her mother about her whereabouts. Her mother, unaware of Bonnie's intentions, tells her Alyssa isn't home. James, watching from a distance, grows more anxious because they never told her Alyssa's address. His concern deepens, and he knows he has to act fast. Bonnie drives back and parks near Alyssa's house, waiting for her return. When Alyssa finally arrives, James remains hidden, observing as Bonnie silently stalks her. Inside the cafe, Alyssa is chopping vegetables when she accidentally cuts her finger. The sight of blood brings back flashes of Professor Clive's past horrors in her mind. Lost in those thoughts, she barely notices when a coworker requests to leave early. Since it's not too busy, she agrees, saying she'll manage everything alone. Watching from outside, Bonnie feels a sense of satisfaction. With the cafe now empty, she grabs her gun and heads toward Alyssa. In her other hand, she clutches Alyssa's wedding scarf. James follows closely behind, his heart pounding as Bonnie steps inside the cafe. Acting quickly, he opens her car and finds Professor Clive's book inside. Flipping through it, his eyes land on an autograph where Clive has written that he loves Bonnie deeply. Everything clicks in James's mind. Panic rushes through him as he realizes Alyssa is in real danger. Without wasting a second, he slams the car door shut and rushes toward the cafe, his worry intensifying with every step. Bonnie enters the cafe and walks straight to Alyssa, saying she's there to return her scarf. Alyssa, surprised, asks how she found her address. Bonnie lies, saying James told her. Trying to stay calm, Alyssa offers her a drink, partly to be polite and partly to keep the situation under control. Bonnie agrees, her expression unreadable. James sneaks around the back of the cafe, trying to find a way inside. As he peeks in, his eyes widen because Bonnie has a gun. Desperate, he tries to call 911, but the connection is terrible. His voice keeps breaking, and the officer on the other end struggles to understand him. Frustration builds as he realizes he's running out of time. Bonnie keeps pressing Alyssa about the past, demanding to know what really happened that night. Bonnie pulls the gun from under the table and places them on top. Alyssa finally asks if she was the one who sent the bullets. Bonnie admits it, then demands to know how she and James killed Professor Clive. Alyssa, trying to stay calm, explains that they never meant to kill him. She goes over everything that they break in, how they were just kids, and then Clive suddenly appeared in the bedroom. She describes how he shut the door and tried to assault her. Bonnie's expression darkens. She refuses to believe it, insisting Alyssa is lying. Before the tension escalates further, a police car pulls up. Bonnie stiffens, panic flashing in her eyes. She immediately turns to Alyssa, demanding to know why the police are there. Alyssa, keeping her composure, says she has no idea as she's been standing right in front of her the whole time. Bonnie's grip on the gun tightens. She warns Alyssa not to do anything stupid. If she tries to alert the officer, she'll kill both her and the cop. Alyssa has no choice but to play along. The police officer arrives. Meanwhile, James sneaks in through the restroom window and quietly hides in the kitchen, gripping a knife. The officer steps inside the cafe, scanning the area. Bonnie sits calmly at the table while Alyssa stands nearby, tense but composed. The officer explained that he received an emergency call. Alyssa, keeping her voice steady, insists she didn't make it. Just then, his eyes land on a fresh pie on the counter. The sight distracts him, and he casually orders a slice, sitting down to eat. At that moment, Alyssa glances toward the kitchen and spots James hiding there. A mix of fear and hope flickers in her eyes. As the officer eats, he casually mentions a recent case. He tells them that a motel owner named Gus was found dead in his wardrobe with a gunshot wound. Alyssa's eyes widen as realization hits. Bonnie must have killed him that night. Alyssa tries to discreetly pass a note to the officer with "Help me" written on it, hoping he'll realize the danger. But the officer declines to take the change. She hands him the note. She attempts again, but he insists she can keep the extra cash. Frustrated, she has no choice but to take the money back. As the officer heads toward the exit, his sharp eyes catch a glimpse of Bonnie's hidden gun. The realization dawns on him as he steps outside. Meanwhile, Bonnie instructs Alyssa to lock the front door, making sure no one can enter or leave. Then, she starts questioning her about James. Alyssa, trying to remain calm, lies that he isn't here and has already left. But at that moment, James accidentally dropped the knife. Bonnie's head snaps toward the sound, her suspicion confirmed. She storms into the kitchen and finds him hiding. Without hesitation, she orders both of them to come out. Outside, the officer quickly grabs his radio and sends out an emergency call. Bonnie, with anger and heartbreak in her voice, demands to know why they killed Professor Clive. She insists he was the only person who truly loved her. Alyssa, trying to reason with her, explains that she's actually lucky to have been rescued, because just like all the other girls, she could have been his next victim. But Bonnie refuses to believe it. Her mind replays memories of other girls visiting him, yet she struggles to accept the truth. Overwhelmed, she lashes out at Alyssa in frustration. James, desperate to protect Alyssa, steps in and claims that he is the one who killed Clive, not her. He pleads for Alyssa to be spared, since she had no part in it. But Bonnie isn't satisfied. She insists that someone has to be punished. Alyssa, with pain in her eyes, says she has been living in punishment ever since. she never truly escaped that moment. It haunts her every day. She then reveals that there were videos proving Clive did the same to other girls, leaving Bonnie shaken. The reality finally begins to sink in. Bonnie's grip on the gun loosens. The weight of it all crashes down on her, and in a moment of despair, she turns the gun on herself. But before she can pull the trigger, Alyssa and James lunge forward, knocking the gun away. It clatters to the ground as Bonnie collapses in tears, completely breaking down. After a while, police cars also rush to the scene. Alyssa, her family, and James arrive at the police station to give their statements. As Alyssa sits there, exhaustion weighing on her, she suddenly sees Professor Clive standing at a distance. Shaken, she looks away, trying to push the haunting image out of her thoughts. Meanwhile, James provides his statement to the officers, explaining everything that happened, including Bonnie's role in the events. The officers reassure him. Bonnie has already confessed to everything. Relieved, he steps outside, only to be met by Lee, who hands him a folded note. It's from Alyssa. She has written that she'll be back soon, and asked Lee to look after him while she's gone. But the words only sent panic coursing through James. Without wasting a second, he rushes to his car, hands gripping the wheel tightly, ready to find her before it's too late. James, desperate to find Alyssa, goes to her house first, but she's not there. His worry deepens as he checks the cafe's cabin. Still no sign of her. His last hope is Todd's house. Knocking anxiously, he asks if she has come by, but Todd shakes his head. James feels a sinking dread. What if she's done something to herself? Then a memory strikes him. Alyssa once told Bonnie that she had always felt trapped in that apartment, in that same bedroom. His gut tells him she might have gone there. Meanwhile, Alyssa arrives at the abandoned house of Professor Clive. The place is up for sale now, stripped of everything, yet it still holds the weight of all she has been through. Steeling herself, she steps into the bedroom. The silence presses in, memories flooding back, and before she can stop it, tears spill over. But after a moment, she gathers herself, pushing past the emotions. She makes her way outside, standing at the edge of the empty swimming pool. Taking a deep breath, she climbs in, letting herself sink into the memories she has been running from. James speeds through the streets, his heart pounding as he heads toward Clive's old house. Pulling up, he rushes inside, his eyes scanning the empty space until they land on Alyssa's jacket. Relief and anxiety hit him at the same time. He calls out her name. A moment later, she answers. His chest loosens as he finds her standing there, safe but drenched. Confused, he asks why she's wet. She casually replies that she went swimming. James exhales, still shaken. Then, remembering the note she left, he questions her about it. Why had she written for Aunt Lee to take care of him? The words had scared him. Alyssa looks at him, realizing how much he has panicked. She softly apologizes, explaining that she never meant to make him worry like that. And then, as if sensing what he might have feared, she firmly assures him, no matter what happens, she will never take her own life. Both walk to a spot beneath a bridge where James finally scatters his father's ashes. He explains that this place used to be a park, the very spot where his parents first met. As he releases the ashes, he watches in mild surprise as they become damp from the moisture in the air. After a moment, Alyssa breaks the quiet, saying she's hungry. They find a small roadside open cafe. As they eat, she hesitates before bringing up something from the past. That day outside the tow yard, she had heard what he said. James pretends not to remember, but she knows he does. He had said he loved her. She admits that she feels the same way. James doesn't react too much on the surface, but inside, happiness swells in him. Alyssa then says she needs time to recover. James listens to everything, nodding along without hesitation. For him, anything she says is okay. Then, without a word, Alyssa places her hand over his. James smiles. They sit like that, the moment stretching between them. Sitting on a bench overlooking the mountains in peaceful silence, the season comes to an end.